And next gentleman I get to introduce is Mr. Bob Wares. You've seen him probably on the panel this morning. He's a president and CEO at Osisko Metals, working the Pine Point and Gaspé Copper projects. Really looking forward to an update. Thanks so much for joining us, Robert. So, yeah. Good luck. Oh, there you go.
So, thank you, guys. So, Osisko Metals, part of the Osisko Group, obviously, most of our companies are focused on gold historically in the last 15 years since inception. But about 7 years ago, I had a good discussion with my colleagues, Sean and John, decided gold is great, but the world actually needs copper, zinc, and nickel more than gold going forward. So we created a base metal, now called Critical Metals Company, and focus on acquiring brownfield assets in Canada. Going back to brownfield sites is always great as long as A, there are residual resources that look promising, and B, you bring new ideas to old camps. No point in kicking old tires in an old camp if you don't bring any innovation. So I think we were successful in acquiring and currently developing 2 assets. I'll focus on Gaspé Copper today. We have 2 assets, Pine Point, Northwest Territory, iconic MVT type deposit that was worked by Cominco until 1988. Right now we've got about 60 million tons of resources, which will soon be converted to measured and indicated with a Q1 update on that. That project is well under control. We have a JV with Appian Capital, free carried to FID, which is about 4 years down the road right now. And we'll have a residual interest of 40% in the project at FID. But right now it's a $100 million investment going into advancing the project and cash payments to Osisko, which we're now using to advance Gaspé Copper. So Gaspé Copper was acquired by Osisko Metals from Glencore. I won't talk about my bullish views on copper, probably don't have here to mention it, but essentially we're extremely bullish because copper is going to be the critical metal for all forms of alternative energy development. But this is an interesting slide from S&P Global called incentivization, or the incentive price that is needed to bring all copper, the average global copper project into production. And they predict for 2024, $4.50 a pound US. Without that price, only a handful of copper projects can possibly go ahead, which means that most will remain idle from a capitalization point of view, but more importantly also from a permitting point of view. Again, we have world-class deposits on the planet that are sitting idle and just lost in permitting nightmares and litigation. So all that is essentially resulting in a flat production profile, if not declining. So on the supply side, that's where we're very bullish on copper. And again, prediction from S&P Global and also WoodMac 2025, we're likely going to enter a global deficit production situation with no short-term remedy in sight. Even if copper went up to $5 a ton, or sorry, $5 a pound in 2025, it still takes, for a new project, 5 to 10 years to get into production. So it's not going to be an easy fix. So Gaspé Copper is located in Eastern Canada. Past producer, it was an Aranda operation until '98. Highway access from a deep water port at Gaspé. It was an iconic mine in Eastern Canada with smelter, 10,000 ton a day mill, and ancillary buildings. I actually worked there in the 90s as a younger geologist. Both an open pit underground operation. It was actually the largest underground mine actually in Eastern Canada. Room and pillar operation mostly with 35-meter high pillars. It was very spectacular. Essentially a bulk tonnage underground operation. With the mining town of Murdochville, named after the iconic first president of Aranda, J. White Murdoch. The town's still there, subsisting on seasonal tourism. The site's been completely remediated by Glencore. As you recall, Noranda Falco was bought out by Xstrata, which was then bought out by Glencore in the last 15 years. So Glencore inherited the site, spent $150 million reclaiming it. What we are looking at, from our point of view, is basically a simple expansion of the Mount Copper pit. Not possible back in the Noranda days because the smelter was sitting right on the edge of the pit. The worst place they could build their smelter. But that's gone now, so that leaves an opportunity to work on a pit expansion. Glencore did a great job remediating the site. The tailings pond is essentially a grass field. The water quality in the Mount Copper pit is very clean. You could drink it. And our approach right now is, the last 2 years, is to drill the resource, residual resource left around Mount Copper. Right now, we're sitting about 450 million tons of 0.31 copper with byproduct moly and silver, bringing it to a copper equivalent of about 0.4. So it's still a significant resource. At 456 at 0.31, we actually have been working on pit optimization. And the PEA and feasibility will be focused on an optimized pit, about 410 million tons of slightly higher grade, but with a much lower strip. The strip is down to 1.2, and that's going to be our pit constrained resource model that we're going to be focusing on for economic studies. The deal with Glencore is very simple: a convertible debenture for $25 million US, exercisable at 40 cents per unit. Of Osisko shares and a half warrant, exercisable or convertible over the next 3 years, at which point Glencore will become a controlling shareholder, actually, of Osisko Metals. The only other payment is a $20 million US cash payment upon commercial production, and a work commitment of 55 million Canadian to get the project to FID over a 4 or 5 year period. This was a way for Glencore to convert a sleeping asset into potentially producing asset. So naturally, they get 100% of the offtake on both copper and moly production, and they retain a 1% NSR on the Mount Copper operation. A bit of an experiment for Glencore. They've never actually done this in Canada or anywhere in North America. So there was some debate internally as to whether this was the best approach, but we finally managed to close the deal. Now, of course, we have to deliver. So Peter Wright has joined the board. He's one of the heads of Glencore Canada. It was a welcome addition, and right now the project is advancing very well, with drilling and metallurgical work and trade-off studies for the PEA currently underway. So again, the focus will be on expansion of the original pit, this north-south cross-section. Underground potential still remains in the skarn zones. That Roman pillar shot I showed you was in the main C-zone skarn. It's actually a porphyry copper skarn complex. Also going to be working 2024 in a deep-seated porphyry system called Mount Porphyry, which offers potential for underground block caving operation. So drilling, the resources I mentioned at a 0.16 internal cutoff right now sits at 456.35 total copper, 0.31 sulfur copper for about 3.1 billion tons in situ, or 1.4 million tons copper metal in situ. Last year's resource did not take into account moly and silver. The resource update will be published again also in Q1 2024, which will bring in moly and moly and silver byproducts, and slightly better, about a 10% increase in tonnage and a 5% increase in grade. So the definition drill program is ongoing to convert the entire resource to measured indicated. The update in January in Q1 should be mostly about 90% measured indicated. And to that, we will add the 8,000 meters of drilling that we did this year. And that should bring us, I would say, about 92% measured indicated, which will be the basis for moving on with our PEA and feasibility. Drilling results were excellent. Our most spectacular hole intersected 1,000 meters of 0.46 with subordinate silver and moly last year, with the core intersection through the base of the current pit being 312 meters of 0.76. So it's still significant copper left. And that is key to actually our mining approach. The starter pit, the first 5 years, at about 90 million tons, should be able to extract about 0.5% copper equivalent. And that's critical to the IRR of the operation and financing the project. Current CapEx is estimated a 55,000 ton a day operation, about 1.8 billion Canadian. As far as mineralization is concerned, fairly simple. Chalcopyrite bornite stockworks in hornfels, actually not volcanic rocks, with the copper skarns being fairly classical in terms of composition. We anticipate no issues at the metallurgical level. Right now, our model assumes 88% recovery on the copper. And no penalties. Gaspé Copper always produced an exceptionally clean concentrate, no arsenic, no deleterious elements, and we have signed already the offtake agreement with Glencore. So that aspect is under control. We know exactly what our NSR is going to be in our financial model. Portree Mountain is a very attractive target. The last hole to be popped down, Portree Mountain, intersected over 800 meters of 0.9 copper and 0.07 moly. So again, that'll be the subject of what I think will be a very exciting drill program in summer of 2024. So 7-year timeline to FID. We closed the deal again this year. Between 23-27, environmental, social, economic impact studies, more exploration and definition drilling and feasibility, 28 public hearings, and we hope to have operating permits by mid-2028 for a final decision end of 28, and construction over a 2-year period between 29 and 30 for a start of production in late 2030, early 2031. So again, 7-year timeline may seem a lot, but in today's world, that is not so long actually. And the path to permitting is actually very clear. So very little jurisdictional or permitting risk on this project. And as I said, Pine Point, I'm probably out of time. So, oh no, I've got 2 minutes. Amazing. So Pine Point, again, past producer, JV'd with Appian. So right now we're looking at M&I of 15.8 million tons of about 6% lead zinc, and an inferred of 47 million tons. So Pine Point was actually a series of small open pits. These are all open pit resources. And we'll use the same approach, potentially, of putting this into production. Our IRR right now at $1.37 zinc is about 25% after tax, and an NPV is 605. So actually at this stage, Pine Point has the potential to become a top 10 global zinc mine. Infrastructure is very close by, with railhead 60 kilometers away. The thing that's actually exceptional about Pine Point is the quality of the concentrate. In its day, it produced one of the cleanest zinc concentrates in the world, and our own MET testing has confirmed this. If you compare Pine Point zinc concentrate, major elements compared to the 5 biggest producers in the world, that include Red Dog, Rampura Camp, Mount Isa, McArthur River, and Antamina, Pine Point is less than 2% contaminants, mostly iron. And ditto for trace elements, no manganese, mercury, cadmium, or arsenic. So, fantastically clean concentrate, also very high grade. It'll come into almost 60% zinc, very unusual and very rich. Oddly enough, most smelters don't really like super clean concentrate because they don't make any money on the penalties. But all smelters are constrained, both technically and environmentally, to control the deleterious element output. So that's typically done by blending with a clean concentrate. So basically no smelter is going to want all of it, but all smelters are going to want some of it. So that gives us a widespread, marketing-wise, in terms of offtakes for future Pine Point concentrate. So in a nutshell, what's great about Point Point, as far as North American zinc projects are concerned, if you include, let's say, a critical mass, at least 20 million tons or 20 years of mine life, premium high-grade concentrate, and nearby infrastructure, it's the only zinc project in the Americas that fits the bill right now in the resource development stage. So we've completed all our 2023 objectives, closing acquisition of Gaspé Copper Glencore, completing definition drill programs at both Point Point and Gaspé Copper, M&I resources updated for both projects by year end to be published in Q1 2024, and launching of metallurgical testing program at Gaspé Copper. 2024 objectives, releasing the updated M&I mineral resources, launch feasibility at Point Point in Q1, launch PA and environmental baseline studies at Gaspé Copper in Q2, and continue with exploration drilling on both projects. So it's going to be a very exciting year, very productive. These projects are a bet on both copper and zinc, so for those of you who are bullish on base metals, or what now known as critical metals, this is Osisko Metals is a great opportunity to get in at an early stage for both these projects. Thank you.
I don't know if the microphone, is it on? Oh, it's on. Anybody has any questions? I do have one, but anybody else? Okay. So you mentioned that Gaspé Copper is rather close to a town currently being used for tourism. And then at the same time, you also have an aggressive timeline to put this thing into production, 7 years. Most people can think it's long, but it's actually aggressive in my opinion. How are you dealing with the locals and that whole town? Are you going to have to do something for them? Is it an extra expense, an extra risk?
No, we already had 2 town presentations, so the locals are quite aware of the planning and what we're staging. The tourist industry, of course, is a bit concerned, but we already dealt with the individuals who are running these industries. They now realize that it should have very little impact. And in fact, they're starved for financing anyways, so we're obviously willing to collaborate with them should we go ahead with the mine build to help finance their industry. So it'll be a good opportunity to demonstrate that you can marry a tourist industry with a mine site. We did it very successfully at Canadian Malartic. When we built it, actually Canadian Malartic is one of the biggest tourist attractions in the Abitibi. So it was a good way of demonstrating that this can be done. And
right.
We'll do it again at Gaspé Copper.
Okay, and then just one last thing. How's cash right now, and how far does that get you?
Right now, we're only financed for next year. For Gaspé Copper, we'll probably be seeking a partner to advance the project longer term, the same way we did with Pine Point.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, thank you, Robert, for this presentation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay. Thank you.